Is it possible that Christ died on the cross first, and then the thief died under the dispensation of grace? Or was the start of the church with Paul to be the official start of grace? What would be the official starting point of the dispensation of grace? So several questions there. Let's start with this. Is it possible that Christ died on the cross first, and then the thief died under the dispensation of grace? And the answer to that, of course, is no. Let's go to the next question. Well, I'll explain in a minute. Was the start of the church with Paul to be the official start of grace? What would be the official starting point of the dispensation of grace? So the dispensation of grace began with Paul, and we'll prove that in just a minute. The thief on the cross could not have died under the dispensation of grace, because even if you believe the thief died after the Lord, it was only shortly after the Lord. It wasn't years later. So the thief on the cross was saved by grace because everyone who is ever saved is saved by grace. Everyone who is ever saved. Get with me Hebrews 11, verse 6. Hebrews 11, verse 6. Hebrews 11 and verse 6. But without faith, it is impossible to please him. So anyone at any point on the timeline who is saved on the basis of faith. Anyone anywhere on the timeline who is saved by grace. The content of the faith differs because God's revelation to man differs at different points in time. So they believe different things. But anyone who is ever saved is justified on the basis of grace. So with that, go with me to Ephesians chapter 3, verse 1. Ephesians chapter 3, verse 1. Now the other thing that tells you is because the thief on the cross did not get water baptized, and when you think about Mark 16:16, he that believeth and is baptized shall be saved. It wasn't that water baptism was some sort of meritorious act and you were water baptized and then you merited or obtained salvation. It was simply a ministerial act that was a demonstration of faith. When the Lord spoke to the thief on the cross, the Lord obviously understood the thief's heart and knew that the thief had faith. And when the thief said to him, Lord, remember me when thou comest into my kingdom, the Lord perceived his faith was genuine and he was justified on the basis of that faith. Look with me at Ephesians 3, verse 1. For this cause I, Paul, the prisoner of Jesus Christ for you Gentiles. Verse 2. If ye have heard of the dispensation of the grace of God, that's the time period in which we live. Now notice this, which is given me. The vast majority of dispensationalists today would hold the view that the dispensation of grace began in Acts 2 at Pentecost. But if you simply read Ephesians 3:2, who was the dispensation of grace given to? It was given to the Apostle Paul, so it can't possibly start any time before Acts 9. It's simply not possible. Verse 3, how that by revelation he made known unto me the mystery. The way that Paul received the dispensation of grace is that it was a mystery. It was information that was hid, and then it was revealed to Paul. So obviously it couldn't begin any time before Paul was saved. I'll read verse 3 again. How that by revelation he made known unto me the mystery, as I wrote afore in few words, whereby when ye read ye may understand my knowledge in the mystery of Christ. Verse 5, which in other ages was not made known unto the sons of men, as it is now revealed unto his holy apostles and prophets by the Spirit, that the Gentiles should be fellow heirs and of the same body, and partakers of his promise in Christ by the gospel. So the mystery that's referenced in verse 3 is defined in verse 6. It's that the Gentiles shall be fellow heirs and of the same body. That is obviously different from what the Lord taught during his earthly ministry, and it's different from what the Kingdom Church believed in early Acts, and you can see that as late as Acts chapter 10. So in answer to the question, did the dispensation of grace start after the Lord died. No, it didn't start until it was revealed to the Apostle Paul. The thief on the cross was saved under the kingdom program. He was justified by faith, just as everyone who is ever saved is justified by faith. I remind you of Genesis 15:6. Abraham believed God, and it was counted unto him for righteousness.